Welcome to London City and welcome back to the Pilatus PC-12. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be doing some straight-in landings at London City, and we're going to be doing it live, so you're going to see my mistakes as well as hopefully me at some point getting it right. We'll just set the aircraft up. Know that we have the visors obscuring the overhead panel. And what I will be careful to do is adjust aileron trim, set that up as it should be. Let's get the power set to about 12. This is quite a steep approach. I think it's 5.5 degrees, so it is significantly steeper than the approach that you would be used to. So I want to the big challenge is to keep the approach speed down, and what we're going to do shortly is to lower the landing gear, so we've got plenty of time to stay on top of the speeds. Would normally, in fact even with this approach, I'd extend it at the outer marker. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hear that. So in advance we'll just extend landing gear a little bit early, just to make sure that we're one step ahead. We want to bring the airspeed down, and as you can see we're on the localizer and we're still below glide slope, which is not yet active. When it becomes active we will extend the first notch of flaps and bring the power down, and there we have it. So let's just start bringing power down into the 8 psi range. And as we start to descend, you can see it's quite a steep descent, about 1,000 feet per minute. Let's add more flaps, not quite full flaps yet. As you can see, very important that we zero the aileron trim. Now when we get down to 1,000 feet I'll go full flaps. Be very careful with the power setting. It's quite easy to get wrong. I don't think I've ever landed this perfectly. The flare is significantly more difficult than for a 3-degree landing. Let's go full flaps. We're looking for about 90 knots. At 500 feet we will disable the autopilots. Then we're at the most difficult part of the approach, which is trying to maintain centerline. 700 feet, so about 500 feet AGL we will disconnect autopilot. Let's see if I can manage to get on centerline this time. Going a little bit to the left. Just want to stay on top of this. Very easy to go one way or the other. I think we're a little bit to the right. Just trying to maintain centre line. A little bit off, but not too bad. Pull back a little bit. Bring the nose up. Well, that was butter, but I don't like the slow it down. Tends to slip a little bit to the right. with the larger reversed forces. Condition lever is in ground idle, so that's not too bad. I'd say I would definitely go for butter as being a acceptable rating. Of course, we get the warning and caution lights for trim. Just see if I can. Sometimes just pushing trim forward turns it off. Sometimes I think you go past it a little bit, and you need to just add in some. We've gone too slow there, but you need to add a little bit of back trim in order to cancel that. So I'm losing for some reason. There you go. Sometimes I'm sure it's a controller issue, but sometimes I push a long way to get some authority. So let's just park it up here. So that is a rated butter landing. So that's number one. That's the first one. And what we'll do is we'll go around, do it again, and hopefully I'll make a mistake which I can then talk you through. And welcome back to another approach to London City. Again, we will clean the aircraft up. Straighten the trim out. I think it's actually too much. Back to the left. Now let's get the power straightened out again. Back to about 12. It's really difficult to hit exactly where you want to hit. But that looks reasonable. So, as you can see from the previous approach, it's really difficult to get the flare right because you're coming at such a steep angle. It's really difficult to get the power off and the nose up, and to do it in a really coordinated way. It's very easy to get it wrong and hit the runway at 200 to 300 FPM, which is of course substantially more than you want to touch down at. You want to touch down about 100 FPM or less. Let's get the gear down. So what you would probably see this time, you would probably see a rougher landing with a higher touchdown rate, unless I do 2 good landings in a row, which is unlikely. But this is a good approach to practice if you are proficient at 3-degree glide slopes. It's good to really challenge yourself with a rapid approach. It's surprising how much that extra approach angle really makes to your technique. You've really got to be really on top of the flare and the drop in power. If you pull too much power back, then you're going to have excessive sink rate. So it's a difficult balancing act. You can easily find yourself floating. That could be another mistake I'll make. It's very easy to float it. You don't want to come back too much on the power, but you don't want to come back too little on the power too, because that will also get you into issues. So a bit more flap. Again, look at that descent rate, 1000 FPM. It's very easy to get it wrong. the biggest issue is probably getting onto center line. One thing I would say about that is make sure you're making little adjustments. Don't wait until there's a big error. Make that adjustment early. Get into the last element of flaps. Try to stay ahead of any potential issues. Try to be predictive. And just look for those minor deviation from center line. Okay, so we're out of autopilot. We just seem to be drifting a little bit to the left. Trying to stay center line. A little bit, just put a bit of right trim on there. Still a little bit to the right, so larger correction. Left, we're still drifting right. A little bit low. Back on the power. Let's get the nose up. Floating a little bit. But yeah, still. A good butter landing. Into reverses, a little bit of a push to the right again. Get a big push to the right, you can go a certain amount of the range in reverse, and then at a certain point it will just pitch you a little bit to the right. So that accounts for that shift that we saw there. Get a little bit push to the left. So that is two butter landings back to back. Yeah, we're getting the... There you go. Got the warning and caution lights off. A little bit more reverse thrust for the turn. Let's see if we can get the rudder pedals to function properly and get it turned to park. So almost disappointingly, no great errors on that. But that just shows the benefit of practice. So it's a really odd little airport. I'm going to make a tight turn. In fact, I'll just show you. See if I can make this turn without either going into the water or onto the grass. There you go. And we have a substantial taxi down to the buildings. So, two butter landings, surprisingly enough. Again, this is a bit of a challenging approach. You've got to, all the things that I've said before in the landing tutorial, the power settings, you've got to pull back on power significantly more because of the steepness of the descent, and with the approach you've got to be very precise with the power. You want to pull back a little bit on the power, but not too much. You don't want to float, but you also don't want excessive sink rate. So it's a difficult one, but it's certainly worthwhile practicing this approach. It will improve your general technique. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found it useful. And as always, feel free to like, comment and subscribe.